Welcome into our overtime segment here at SportsSource.tv. We appreciate you joining us. We got Josh Ward right here and Jimmy Himes beside him. Both these guys you can hear Monday through Friday on Sports Radio WNML. You are noon to 3. You are 3 to 7. Bob Hodge, you can see him every Sunday right here, 11 to noon, WATE 6.
And hanging out at various places.
And if you're in the coal industry, or you can actually, you're still a freelance writer for the Knoxville News Sentinel. People read you there as well. Thanks to all these guys for being here. Thanks to our sponsor for this segment, Blue Smoke Cigar and Smokin' Joe's, 2 locations. Blue Smoke Cigar is their fantastic new membership club that they have. Now you can go in there to their walk-in humidor and grab a cigar, smoke there if you like. But if you're a member, you get access to a wall of televisions, leather seats, the game tables, the card tables. They've got it all. And then, of course, they've got their store, Smokin' Joe's, down in Alcoa, which is just one of the nicest humidors you'll ever walk into. We thank them. We hope you'll check them out, either in Alcoa at Smokin' Joe's or out west, right off South Peters Road there for Blue Smoke Cigar. Want to talk a little bit more. We started today's show talking about the AD search. That seems to be what's getting more and more talk, mainly because nothing's happening, and I think that's ticking more and more people off. Some are worried. I'm going to throw this out here. And let me just say, I know it's a dumb question, but I think it needs to be answered because some people are wondering this. Is Tennessee at risk in ticking off David Blackburn? Let's say they go through all this, and they wait and they delay, and then they decide David Blackburn's the guy. Are they again going to go to David Blackburn and he's going to say, no, you took too long? There are some people who are afraid of that. I'll do it in Phil Donahue fashion. I turn it over to you.
Let's just say you're from South Louisiana and your name is Etienne, and LSU hadn't offered you until January the 28th. You take it.
Yeah.
Because you go to LSU. I don't think it's going to make him mad, and I think he's content where he is with what he's doing. I think he likes where he is, but if Tennessee came up and offered him at the last minute, he would take the Tennessee job, my opinion.
Yeah, I don't see that. Making David Blackburn angry, I think, is the least of Tennessee's problems surrounding all of this stuff. I think the anger, as you and I have talked about, has gotten greater because it's taken longer. If you would have hired somebody not named David Blackburn back in December, I don't think you have a lot of this stuff right now. I mean, people aren't as angry that you don't have a UT guy, but you've allowed it to hang out there, and now he's become the name that everybody's coalesced around. I think that is the least of your worries, that David Blackburn will say no.
Yeah, and my joke has been that they're still in the search for the committee to search, so I don't even know if it's an AD search yet. I mean, it is. Right. But in the end, the only thing that I would think that would ever change things would be if another major school came and offered him a job, and Tennessee still hasn't even got anything going, but I'm not aware of anything like that. That would be, if you have another option, but if the two options are Chattanooga or the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and then you choose the one in Knoxville.
He had a previous option in the SEC, and he said no. That school's in Starkville.
Yeah, tells you he's waiting to come home to mama if they call. Yeah. And this is one that a lot of people aren't discussing. I think it's as I throw my phone down on the desk. Sorry about that. Our audio person just most people aren't discussing this, but I think it's a real factor. If I'm David Blackburn, I'm not going to get mad that they're taking long. I would want everyone there to be in on my hire, especially my new boss. Yeah. There's this idea that, well, you're just going to tick him off. Why do we have to have the new chancellor involved? That's his boss. Of course you would want the boss to sign on that hire. If I'm him, I'd be sitting there, look, as you say, I've got a good job. I think I've got a good shot at Tennessee, which everyone I talk to says he does. Probably the leader, I think most believe. So, yeah, let's make sure that everybody's there. And I think it would behoove him as well. Meet with Beverly Day. He may not like her. I mean, we've all done job interviews and moved around and stuff. Sometimes you don't go because there's not the right relationship. You feel it right off the bat. It's like, I don't want to work for this person.
Two-way street.
Yeah. So I think that's not being discussed, but I think it needs to be, because when you get off message board world and you get into real world and you apply it to any job, take the AD out of it, you look at a lot of things. There are a lot of factors that weigh into it, and who your boss is going to be, and whether or not you want to work with them, and whether or not they wanted you or you were forced upon them. That weighs in it. So I don't think you're running the risk ticking him off or losing him by this delay. One last thing I do want to talk about very quickly, because I think it's interesting. There's a growing belief. We've talked about it before, but it's more real now. There's a growing belief that there are people that you have to take the athletic department back from. You got to take the university back from somebody. Seeing a lot of that in social media, seeing a lot of that on the Twitter stuff. Saw this yesterday on a post. A lot of people were agreeing with it. Somebody saying, and this was about bringing Philip Fulmer back, because he knows full well that there are enemies within who are trying to kill Tennessee football, all of which started under Mike Hamilton. Now, I would say this is exactly, but
Excuse me,
here's the thing, but that's not just one person. And that's my problem with social media, is you've now given, everyone in America now has a broadcast tower. And it used to be a village idiot was the idiot only in his village. Now you can go out and find a village of idiots. They all come in and say, I agree with that. There's enemies in our midst. There are saboteurs. Dave Hart came here from Alabama with a banjo on his knee to destroy UT. There's this belief, if it's out there, how does Tennessee deal with that?
Well, I tell you.
You just ignore it and move on? Or
get back to the root cause of some of that stuff, and it's always been at most universities. You've always got a battle between academics and athletics. I mean, it's been going on forever. I think nowadays some of it is more out in the open a little bit. I have a really good friend of mine who just hates the fact that Tennessee's put emphasis on becoming a top 10 research institute when your football team's not winning SEC championships. I think that is insanity, and he knows exactly who I'm talking about as he watches this afternoon. And I think that's crazy. I don't think there's there's academic people who don't like all the emphasis on athletics. I think that's historic. But people inside the athletic department that are trying to act, as you said, saboteurs, no. I think that is just, because here's the deal. Their jobs depend on it. That's how they make their living.
The better they do, typically,
The more money.
the more money for everybody.
Yes.
More
Bonuses and
More-
apparel and
more people applying to that school. Guarantee. They do this every year
Look at
for the
Alabama.
national basketball champion and the national football champion. Every year you win the title, applications do this, which means you can be more choosy and you can charge more.
and out of state.
Out of state, yes.
Yeah.
It's a big advertisement.
Yeah.
So the idea that you got people over there, you're right. There, just as there are some people who sit there and say, I don't care about the academics, we're about football here. There are some people who say, I hate this football. Oh, it's terrible. As they smoke their pipe, that's what that was.
That's what the saboteurs do.
That's what the saboteurs all have pipes. They also have monocles, but I couldn't do that. They're sitting there saying, I don't like this football. But they're not saying, how can we destroy it? I mean, it's just ridiculous. And yet there are people who believe it. I don't know how you counteract it.
Ignore it.
What does the meeting room look like? Because it's got to be closed door, obviously.
Well,
but
first you push a button and the cones of silence drop.
It's in the caverns under Neyland Stadium.
Under Thompson Bowling.
Under Thompson Bowling. I think that everybody that Tennessee has had over there in the athletic department for the past 20 years has been doing their dang best to make it the best athletic department they could. Now, they failed in many respects, several respects. I think Dave Hart did his dang best to do things, made mistakes. Lady Vols, I think, is the most obvious one that he brought upon himself. But to sit there and look back and say he has somehow undone your athletic department, okay, where's your proof? People would say, look at the Lady Vols. They've gone downhill. They're not as good as they were with Pat. That was going to happen, I think, regardless of whether it's Holly Warlick or anybody else. Men's basketball.
It was happening under Pat the last 4
Yeah,
years.
men's basketball at Tennessee has always been. It's almost like watching one of those meters on your heart at the hospital do like this, and that's what it does.
Speaking of Bobby Scott,
Yeah.
who's doing well, by the way.
So I just think that of all the crazy stuff that surrounds sports, I think that could be the craziest.
The conspiracy
The
stuff.
conspiracy stuff.
I think the people that think there are enemies within UT's athletic department that are out to get Tennessee, I think they have enemies within themselves. And, and that is what's really the root of the problem.
Demons.
Yep.
Well, it's scary that there are people who believe this, and they literally think that Dave Hart is more loyal to Alabama than Tennessee.
Tennessee's the one that hired him to be the athletic director. not
Yeah, and
Alabama.
they're the one. The bigger thing to me is who's paying your check. When I
It's
started,
a pretty good check too.
yeah, when I started in this town, I worked at Channel 10. I still love Channel 10. Still, it's where I started. I still love the station. But when I came back to town, I came as marketing director to Channel 6. I did everything I could to help Channel 6 because they're paying me. That's what you do. Love Channel 10. Those were great days. These are new days. There's a paycheck involved. I'm working for Channel 6. You know, so people, it goes back to, you can even get into it with the player thing. That, well, you get somebody from Tennessee, they'll try harder. Okay, so you're saying you should have signed Chan Pennington instead of Peyton Manning. That should have been, you should have had Pennington,
Yes.
here's your quarterback, instead of Peyton Manning. And T. Martin shouldn't have played here because he didn't care. It's just, from players to the stadium's named for a
Yes.
Texan, it's just, it's overblown in my view. Which gets
Alabama
back to the
also
whole,
doesn't need much help. He left behind Nick Saban down there, so he's probably taking care of the football side of things. Dave Hart cares more. He's going to care more about himself and his own job performance and how that reflects what happened at Tennessee. He would like a good legacy. He doesn't want to be known as somebody that did a bad job.
He gets
just for the
bonuses,
sake
too.
of helping Bama. Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets bonuses too.
Well, and you say, well, okay, how come Tennessee can't be Alabama in football? Okay, you can't be. There are some places that just have historical advantages. Tennessee is on that list. They have historical advantages
Over
over
most.
Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas. It's a pretty good list in the SEC. So, you know, Alabama to me is not something you can hope to emulate. Georgia, okay, I think you can emulate what Georgia does.
well, traditionally you're better than Georgia.
And so the fact that you're not there with Alabama doesn't mean that there's somebody down here chipping away at the foundation. I mean, that, like I said, that is, of all the discussion that we have, I think this is probably the
But-
closest to you're insane.
But I think it goes hand in hand with you got to get a UT guy.
Oh, it does, yeah.
Got to get a UT guy because these interlopers, you know, they're coming
Well-
in here and they're trying to tear things down.
And I know we ain't got much time,
No,
but
you get it.
once again, when do you become a UT guy? How long after you walk in the door at UT is it before you're a UT guy?
If you're John Gruden, it was 1 year is all it took as a GA.
And
They
if
bought
it,
some
and,
land.
We need to go. There's
Yeah.
people over in the newsroom over there that don't
They're
realize
ready
we're
for us to
taping, so we're going to go.
depart.
We will see you next Sunday at 11 a.m. on WATE 6. Thanks for joining us for the Sports Source.